So I would like to invite up my special honoree and one of, I think, just a special human being who does some incredible work in Codman Square, who looks stunning this evening, Yvette Modestin. And while Yvette is coming up, I think we did acknowledge that Councillor Zakem has also joined us, so thank you, Councillor Zakem. So I'm going to be short and sweet. Yvette comes from Colón, Panama. She is a poet, she is a writer, she is an activist, she is a leader for the Afro-Latino community here in Boston. I actually met Yvette when she was advocating for policies related to affordable housing, including the Just Cause Eviction and Jim Brooks Stabilization Act. She is active as an organizer at the Codman Square Neighborhood Development Corporation, which is in my district. But outside of that space, that's just her job. She was always in community organizing, and that's where the power comes from, organizing folks from across every part of the diaspora. We've honored her before at the council, but I thought it was very apropos to honor her tonight as a Black immigrant for incredible work in this community and for her contributions to the city of Boston and to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Yvette Modestin.
Evening, everyone. Greetings. Buenas. Honoring the ancestors whose shoulders I stand on and those who guide and protect me on this journey, I want to give thanks to the Councillor Campbell for thinking of me, to Councillor Presley, Janey, and Edwards. Queens, I wish you well. I wish you well. I want to thank the many familiar faces that are in this space that I have seen through my years in Boston. Gracias por este honor y por reconocer la voz del afrodescendiente, el africano, de Latinoamérica y el Caribe. I walk with a tribe of kings and queens who rise up every day speaking their truth. I accept this award on behalf of the courageous 150 million plus of us from Latin America and the Caribbean. W.E.B. Du Bois speaks of double consciousness. It is important for us to know who we are as immigrants, but it's most important for us to know that when we walk in the streets of Boston, that we are Black people, people of color who seek a common agenda for the liberation of all. Afro-descendants, Africans from Latin America and the Spanish-speaking Caribbean are an intricate part of Boston's tapestry. May our voices be included in the narrative of the Black immigrant in this state and in this country. May our hard work, dedication be seen as a crucial part of Boston's development in seeking equity and inclusion of all. Equity and inclusion of all. Every day is Black history. Every day we rise and we say, I'm Black, I'm proud, and yes, I'm Panamanian. Hoy me presento orgullosamente negra, panameña, inmigrante. Gracias. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Boa noite a todos. So seriously, we're going to talk about Black immigrants and not talk about Brazil, the country with the largest Black population outside of the continent of Africa. So that's why I am here. I am an honorary Brazilian, I think, at this point, and I'm actually, well, my husband, I'm actually, well, married to a Brazilian, so maybe legally and by honor, but I am so proud of the woman I'm about to introduce because of the work that she's done and because of the country that she's come from and the journey that she's been on, that so many of us have traversed and have had to make sure that our children, many of us fight to make sure our children have it easier for us. See, I met Dr. Natalicia Tracy. Yes, 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 yes. I met her in 2010 on my own journey, having been laid off from a large law firm, not wondering what I'm going to do. But incredibly inspired by Natalicia, I knew where I belonged, and that was in the fight for immigrant justice and workers' rights. Natalicia came here when she was 17. She came here on what should have been a dream opportunity to be able to earn some money, to be able to help her family in Brazil, and it turned into a nightmare. She is what a lot of us call today a survivor of human trafficking. Now, you imagine coming here being alone, being scared, and not speaking a word of English, and having no family. Unlike a lot of immigrants who could come to a community or come to a church, Natalicia was by herself. But see, she didn't just come here and suffer the consequences. In fact, Natalicia came here and ultimately conquered. To go from being 17 alone and teaching yourself English with a handheld radio, and that's how she learned it, to being a doctor, professor, teaching labor studies, teaching about sociology, human services, race, power, and immigration in the United States. That's the immigrant story. That's the reason why when she said, I'm going to save and continue the work of the Brazilian Immigrant Center, now the Brazilian Worker Center, in 2010, and she said, who's going to be with me and by my side? Myself and several members of the Brazilian immigrant community stood up and said, we're right behind you. And it was my honor to work for her for 4 years. It was my honor. I am going to turn this shortly over to Dr. Tracy to talk a little bit more, but I wanted to also acknowledge her family in the room. Her sister, Lanita, who's holding the camera. Lanita has been there since day one, oftentimes working for free, silently, quietly, the backbone in many cases for a lot of the movements. And the movement that, of course, I learned and cut my teeth on, the domestic worker movement, no surprise that Natalicia is one of the leaders. No surprise at all. And talk about connection. The first version of the Domestic Worker Bill of Rights that ultimately we got passed here in 2014, the very first version was actually constructed and passed and pushed for by Ms. Melania Cass. Black woman here from Boston. So I'm incredibly proud and honored to invite Natalicia up here to come say some words. And Lanita, it would be my honor if you would join us up here, because there were many a night in the Brazilian Immigrant Center when it was just the three of us, if you recall. So I'd love for you to come up here as I'm succeeding and rising, we rise together. So please come on, Lanita. All right, here you go, Dr. Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll wait for Anita to arrive here. As Council Edwards said, we worked together and we prayed together when we had nothing but each other in a dream, and we worked together to rise and to through our struggles together. I'm very honored to be standing here today, and this is an amazing day because finally, our political representation start to look like us, the members of the city. Right? I would like to congratulate all the winners in our recent citywide election cycle. We are so proud of all of you, and we're inspired by you. Thank you for being here. As immigrant of color, African descent, representative of the Brazilian community in Boston, we are honored to be included in this commemoration of centuries of historical contribution and achievements of Black American, especially the dedicated struggles in fight for equal rights. We who have come later truly stand on their shoulders and benefit much from the long, sometimes hard pathway they have forged in America in the search for freedom. These Black historical achievements have been still important today in helping us to combat the social and economic barriers that continue to exist in Boston. I also want to say that it is really important that we, community of color, stand together, because our immigrant history, but also being immigrant of color here in the US, means that our children tomorrow become African American. They don't become American, they become African American. And with that, all the baggage that come with. So we have to be tougher, we have to be stronger, and we have to work together. Thank you so much. I want to thank you again, Council Edwards. We're very proud of her and her achievements. And I want to thank my sister, because we couldn't do it alone. We do it together. Thank you.
So I have the great pleasure and honor of recognizing an amazing woman who lives in Roxbury, in the community that I grew up in. Her name is Diko Jabril. Diko. She was born in Somalia. She is an entrepreneur, a humanitarian, and an ardent activist of social justice. And being a single mother of 4 children, she exemplifies a new generation of African women, and her strength of character set a uniquely valuable model for women of African origin to emulate. And I would add that while it's so important for little Black girls, particularly African girls, to see you, Diko, it is equally important for our little boys to see the work that you are doing in our community. So a year ago today, we were 38 days into a new administration. And we were discussing, or what was coming out of, the vial that was coming out of Washington at that time, which is something we're still dealing with, was a Muslim ban. And I just remember how that made me feel, and I'm someone who, lives here freely and grew up in this country, and just remembered the importance of standing in solidarity with my Muslim brothers and sisters against the ban, yes, and marching with them right down in Copley around this issue, no ban, no wall. And unfortunately, that's still an issue that we have to deal with, where we have someone in Washington who should be leading this country forward, taking us back. But I am encouraged because of what I see in this room. I am encouraged because of our honoree. It was around the same time that I met Diko a year ago, or really got to know Diko. You see, she made history by running for public office. And yes. And she was an example, not only in her community, as a fighter, as someone who came to this country as a refugee at 12 years old, who had to make a way out of no way, as so many of us do. But she also ran an excellent, excellent campaign. And I remember always, as we would encounter each other and learn to build, that we would always say to each other, we would always encourage each other, and we would say, when they go low, we go high. And so it's just quite an honor for me to acknowledge her leadership in our community, to continue to build community with her as an amazing leader, as a mother, as someone who is celebrated in many circles for the work that she's done, certainly in the Somali community. But really, what we're here to do is acknowledge how important that is for the Boston community, and not just Roxbury, and not just the Somali community. So it is just with gratitude, Diko, that I welcome you to come up here. I am just grateful for the woman that you are, the leader that you are, and for your friendship and for the opportunity to build with you. Thank you so much.
I promise I'll be brief because I want to eat. I don't know about you guys, but I've been starving. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. May peace be with you. Yes. I am deeply honored to be here and to receive this acknowledgement. Kim, thank you. It means so much to me. This will encourage me to continue the work that I'm doing and to fight for the good things for my beloved city of Boston. Please look at the person next to you and repeat after what I'm going to say. Don't look at me. Look at the person next to you. All right, the gift that... Is this on? The gift that you have...
The gift that you have...
becomes the gift to your community.
Becomes the gift for your community.
The gift that you have...
The gift that you have...
becomes the gift for your humanity.
Becomes the gift for your humanity.
Let's not forget the gift that God given us, and let's use that gift to make Boston better. Thank you.